or for hell. I'm yelling no more talking, unless it's the truth. You in that bullshit walking. When I'm in
Yeah, what it is. It's your guy EDI, and you back with another edition of EDI Means Talk My Truth. Man, and I'm this one is a proud Talk My Truth. I feel proud for hip hop. I feel proud for where the genre has come from and even where it stands today. I know a lot of people out there feel like hip hop is done. You know, they got some statistic I saw the other day that said hip hop hasn't had a top 40 hit. This is the first time since the early 90s that hip hop hasn't had a top 40 hit or something like that. And a lot of people look at hip hop like it might be a dying genre. I don't feel like that. I feel like hip hop is alive and well. And last night proved it, because one of the greatest groups, in my opinion, in hip hop history got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yes, I'm talking about Outkast, Big Boy, Andre 3000, man. Cold-blooded. A cold-blooded group who defined being put in any box better than any group that I can name. There's a lot of great duos that I love, from Run DMC to UGK to EPMD, Mobb Deep, you know, Dog Pound. The list goes on and on. There's a lot of great duos in hip hop that I'm a fan of. And to me, Outkast sits right there at the top. Salute to those brothers for getting that love and that recognition and that acknowledgement for the greatness that they you know, displayed over many years. And even though they didn't put a bunch of albums out, every album had its own vibe, his own energy. Always did great numbers, platinum plus, if I'm not mistaken. Speaker Box Love Below is probably one of my favorite hip hop albums ever. Yes, ever. That's how good that album is, conceptually, musically, lyrically, production-wise. It's just excellence. And it's excellence for any genre, not just hip-hop. It's excellent if you put it up against rock, pop, reggae, polka. I don't give a fuck what you put it up against. That album stands up strong against any of it. But I'll get to the point. One of the reasons why last night was such a proud moment for me, and it took me back, because we spent a lot of time in Atlanta. You know, Tupac bought his first house in Atlanta in, I believe, early 1993 or 94. And we spent a lot of time there. We have a lot of family and a strong connection to the city. And I first personally moved to Atlanta in late 1992. Shout out to my Uncle OG. Moved me down there, put me up in a condo that he bought, and just let me figure it out. And I can't thank him enough for that. It taught me so much, and I became a man in a lot of ways during that time period. But eventually Tupac came down as well. Of course, he had been to the city several times before, but was looking for a place to start investing his money, get out of LA a little bit. A lot of people wanted him to get out of LA. And so Atlanta became that place. We had family down there already, and Tupac bought his first house on the east side of Atlanta, outside the city, on the outskirts in a city called Lithonia. And so that particular house was the original Thug's Mansion. And it was called Thug's Mansion because we all stayed there together. You know, Pac was a young single man, and it was just a house full of mostly, you know, us. And you know, sometimes when people came in town, they would come and crash at Pac's crib. You know, a lot of, you know, so-called famous people, celebrities, definitely walked through those doors and came through and chilled and, you know, had a good time at Tupac's new house. that he was very proud for. It had a pool, it had a dope backyard, and we had a good time there. And it was a great time for him to be able to see the fruits of his labor. But while we were down there, Georgia moves at a different pace, man. Atlanta is not New York City, it's not LA. It moves at a much slower pace. The days seem longer, and Tupac would get bored. He was young, he had a lot of creative energy. We would hit the studio here and there, but it was supposed to be a time for him to just relax, and he wasn't very good at that. And so one day he comes up with this idea and he says, yo, I want to throw a party. I want to throw a party, a free event, at a club or something like that. And, just have a good time, and I'm going to perform, and, I just want to invite the city out, And so he had his team at that time, his manager, Watani Tahimba, and his son, Asania. Shout out to them. He had an ATL team, I believe, Shaka Zulu, who went on to later, manage artists like Ludacris and start disturbing the peace. He was also involved, if I'm not mistaken. And so they find this venue, and Pac is like, I just want to perform new shit. I want to try some shit out for the people. And I think the only song that he might have done that came out was maybe I Get Around. He might have did Keep Your Head Up. I'm not really sure of the playlist, but it was a dope night. A virtual who's who of Atlanta, celebrity came through. People like Jermaine Dupri and the Brat, the whole Dungeon family, people from LaFace Records, just a who's who. Whoever was in the city came through that night, and the night was amazing. I wish I could describe the vibe for you, but it was a dope vibe. It was a smaller, intimate venue, and Tupac got up there and tore it down, man. And he had us up there with mics backing him up, and it was just a great night for hip hop, for culture, for the people. And like I said, it was a free event, so it was packed, wall to wall. Great night. One thing about the show that I'll never forget though is when Pac did the song Straight Ballin'. Now, Straight Ballin' wasn't even out yet. This is pre-Me Against the World. This is before even the Thug Life album came out. Straight Ballin', the Easy Mo B version was hot off the presses. Nobody had really heard that.
They can never take the game from a young G. Straight ballin', yeah.
And so I believe that was the last song we did that night. And man, it went up just from the beat alone. And, Pac starts doing it, and and it's difficult to perform hits in front of people. But when you're trying out new music, it could go either way. People sometimes be like, yo, I just want to hear what I know you for. But Straight Ballin' in particular just went up and just had the ATL crowd in the zone. And I remember by the time we got to like the second verse, we started hearing, hootie hoo, hootie hoo. I look back and Outkast is in the back of the stage with all they guys, and they just doing that hootie hoo call throughout the whole song. And for me, that was a dope moment because I was already an Outkast fan. I already thought they were great. Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music was one of my favorite albums at that time. I played it relentlessly, and it was just dope. It was just a dope night for hip hop, man. So again, salute to them brothers for getting that acknowledgement. It is well deserved, man. Like I said, Outkast is one of the greatest groups that hip hop has ever produced. Rest in peace to the great Rico Wade, one of the greatest producers ever. The Dungeon family, the whole team. Pac was a fan of their production. I was a fan of their production. I can't speak for nobody else in the group, but I definitely was a fan of their production, and super thankful that I actually got to work with Rico Wade. Shout out to Shorty B, OG Shorty B. Hold your head, stay strong. We praying for you. But yeah, rest in peace to Rico Wade. And I gotta I got a dope Rico Wade story that he told me personally, but I'm gonna save that for another Talk My Truth, man. It's your guy, E.D.I. Appreciate y'all riding with me as I go back. Again, salute the Outkast and the whole Dungeon family. Greatness.
Hard with this dialogue from the start.